Okay, we're live again. This time we're going to talk about career.
Hmm.
As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I don't really know. Probably an airline pilot. No, I don't think I really did, although those kind of things intrigued me. Um, I don't know. I don't remember having any. What am I wearing my glasses for here? They're not even mine. They're some old pair I had laying around. I wanted to look up Beth's birthday.
Oh.
May the 2nd. It's coming up. It's only a couple of weeks away. That's why I didn't remember. I mean, after 300 days, so I can't remember anymore. If it had happened last month, I would have remembered. Uh, no, I don't remember wanting to be anything specific, but probably a fireman or an airline pilot or something. Planes always held a special attraction to me.
And what was your first job?
I guess the first job that I made any real money at, I shoveled walks and cut lawns as a kid, and in a way that I did make money there. But the first job I can really remember, I worked on summer vacation at an orchid greenhouse. One of my buddies in school, Bernie Kaufman. Boy, isn't that a miracle? A name can come back to you after 50 years or 60, 50 some. Yeah, Bernie had a job. He knew somebody, one of the workmen there. He said, if you want a job, you can work. So I said, great. And I worked that summer. I was probably 16 or 17, probably 16, because I worked 2 years at the camp. So I must have been 16, maybe even 15. But at any rate, we worked there. I wasn't old enough to drive. And we worked all summer, worked 45 hours a week, and we repotted orchid plants and watered plants and just did odds. And I had water fights and other things. So that was a real job. And I made $22.50 a week, which was 5.5 days, I think. Half a day on Saturday. I guess that's what it was. And I made a lot of money because I didn't spend any money. I've always been frugal with my money. So at the end of the summer, I had quite a bit of cash. And I can remember I bought a camera, which was had to be 1946 or so, and it would cost me $65, which was 3 weeks' pay. But man, it was a good 35 millimeter camera, and I still have it too. So over the years, if you count 50 years and $65, only $1 a year.
What do you do now?
Right now, I'm what's called a computer support person at the school, Ripple Arm Cisco School. And we work with the network that's there. The school has 2 locations and 3 departments, and so there's a large network and about 100 teachers, and every teacher has a computer and a printer. And then we have computer labs with about 40 computers and printers, not printers, 40 computers, and 3 or 4 network printers that work off that lab. And it requires constant care, adjustment, repair, installation. It's really it's a big job. And that's what I do now, and I love it. I work 30 hours a week.
If money were not an issue, what would you like to do?
I would like to be a computer technician assistant or something. I just enjoy it. It's fun. It's school. It's especially fun because there's a lot of kids around, and things are different. And the whole school atmosphere is like being at summer camp in a lot of ways. Nothing's taken too seriously, and there's free lunches, and vacation days are off, and when it snows, you don't have to go to work. And, it really is a joy. The pay is what I think is great, but for $1 an hour, it'd still be a wonderful job.
What type of work did you do for the most of your life?
I did, to a great extent, what my father did, and he got into that through his father. So when my grandfather came from Sweden, he came as a teenager, and he didn't know much, but the family had been in furniture, and so he was somewhat of a cabinet maker. And he got a job with an office furniture firm. I believe it was the Hale Desk Company. And as a cabinet maker, because all desks and chairs in those days, turn of the century, were wood. So wood was a big deal. I have his work toolbox downstairs and a few of his old tools in it. It's 4 feet long and 2 feet wide, and about 10 inches, 12 inches thick. I don't know how he carried. He must have been a monster of a man, which I don't think he was. But he got into that, and then my dad, when he got out of school, which was the 8th grade, he went to work in that type of thing. I don't know exactly the early years, but then he got into it and was more of a salesperson, selling office furniture to corporations in New York. And in 1935, the Hale Desk Company went belly up in the Depression, and my dad and two other partners, I guess. No, actually there were 5 originally. 5 of the salespeople there who had accounts and things, they decided to start their own company without all the overhead of the old company. And they created what was called Desks Incorporated. And he worked there, and I went to work soon after I was married, or maybe before I was married, I guess. And worked there for about 5 years, and he died with a heart attack. His brother Arthur, as I say, was also there and was in the process with 2 other partners of buying the business from these other 3 guys who had started it. 2 of the other originals had already faded away. And they sold office furniture corporations in Manhattan. And so I went there in probably started when I was 20 in the warehouse, and went up through sales and was married and had kids, and we did all of that thing until worked in Newark for a while. They opened a branch in Newark, and I later went to that. And then while I was there, I guess it had to be in the late 60s, early 70s. It was in the early 70s. I wanted to buy more of the company. I had a little bit of they kept a lot of the younger guys interested with some stock that we bought. But I went to buy a bigger piece in the future and so on, and they were a little reluctant, the older guys who knew what they were doing. So I teamed up with another firm in the city, Danker Salou. I knew a guy, and I remember approaching him in the men's room of someplace in Florida and said, "Paul, I'm interested in moving." And he said, "Well, I tell you what, I'll think about that, and when we get back to New York, well, let's talk about it." So I did buy a piece of the company in '72. And so I went to work with them. I spoke to my uncle about it. He said, "Go for it. It's your dream, do it. If I can be of help, give me a call." And I was there until 1989, when I got rid of my interest in the company, cashed it in, and it was time to move out. And I've had a couple of jobs since then, but they're really retirement jobs. I worked for another furniture firm for about a year, and that didn't work out too well for them or for me, and they were having problems. And I worked in the moving business around here, moving people and moving companies for 2 or 3 years. And I worked at Macy's selling pots and pans. I loved that. But that was only for about 3 or 4 months over Christmas. That was fun, though. And then I got a job at the school where Marge worked, because they had a gal left who had computer experience, and they needed that, and they didn't have anybody to do the work. So I got a job there half-time doing that, which I'd had the hobby of the computer for about 15, 20 years. And so that moved me into my present executive status.